Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Hope you are enjoying this summer Friday, maybe with a little glass of rosé in hand or coming soon. It is a beautiful day. I'm actually here in Toronto visiting the VaynerMedia Toronto office. I'm Avery Akinini, the Chief Marketing Officer at VaynerX, and I'm thrilled to bring you a little dose of Friday learning. Now, I know the whole marketing industry is abuzz with thinking about Cannes Lion and all the amazing stuff that's going to be happening there. But when this report that our incredible strategy team just finished crossed my desk, I knew we had to share this with the world. They did a little bit of thinking around how to build a recession-proof value strategy for a lot of the clients that we work with here at VaynerMedia, and I wanted to invite them to share this with the marketing community and VaynerMedia's marketing community on LinkedIn. So you are in for an absolute treat. This report will be available for download on our website, and the link will be in the comments. And it'll also be something that this incredible team of strategists can take you through. So get ready, get excited, get a little pencil out because you are going to want to take notes if you are a brand leader, if you are a marketer, if you are somebody who is grappling with a lot of the challenges that we're feeling these days with tariffs, cost of living increases, doing more with less. We're going to walk you through how to build a recession-proof value strategy and some of the examples of brands who are doing this really well today and the things to avoid. So with no further ado, I'm going to bring up Julie Domerval. Julie is a leader on our strategy team for many, many years at Vayner. She's a strategy veteran, genius, just absolute brainiac. And her team, Jillian and Estelle, who supported on this research, put together something really fantastic. So get ready to learn. This is something that is absolutely fascinating. And I really want to thank the three of them for taking some time on a Friday afternoon to share this with our live stream community on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions or comments, drop them in the chat. We'll make sure that we get to all of these so it can be active. So little Friday learning session. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Avery, and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for the introduction, Avery. I want to do justice to the team and really thank them for the great work. Jillian and Estelle really are the backbone of this report. And it was really a true team effort as well. We actually enrolled a lot of our teams and strategies who work across a number of different categories. We wanted to make sure that this report reflected a lot of different different strategies, a lot of different situations that come across our client strategies every day. So without further ado, let's jump into it. This report has been really several months in the making. And we realized that a lot of our clients across a number of categories were really seeing profound change in behaviors from their consumers. And this impact of economic uncertainty was really making them question a lot of the decisions, a lot of the strategies that were in place for the year ahead. So we created this report really as a social media guide to leverage during this time of uncertainty. And we felt at VaynerMedia, as a lot of you know, social is really part of our DNA. And we felt that that's where we had to start. We had to start by understanding social insights and conversation in order to inform value strategies in a new and relevant way. That was really the starting point. So the question that we set out to answer is, how do we use social insights and really the shift that they reflect in the current context to build value strategies? A lot of our clients have their value playbook that they tend to reuse, every time because it's a cycle. But our goal was really to bring a fresh perspective and looking at it from a different standpoint. So in the past 45 years, there's been obviously a number of recessions in the US, each one with its kind of like unique take from its cause, duration, and most importantly, sentiment. And what we're seeing currently is obviously a widespread sense of anxiety, a sense of mistrust, with volatility of the economy leading to consumers and businesses really scaling back in a major way. So headlines obviously speak for themselves. On the next slide, all signs point to new recession on the horizon, even though it's not officially named yet. A lot of specialists feel that it's coming. And we could be asking ourselves, okay, but so what? We've been through this before. How is this different? What makes 2025 a different type of crisis? And the belief that we have is that one of the reasons that this crisis is different is that social media is actually now a huge part of how we cope. And when you think about it, the last time there was a major recession in 2008, social media was just taking off. So actually, a lot of the platforms that are part of our everyday didn't even exist. So legacy media, not social media, had the most influence and voice in the landscape. So how we feel, how we act, how we behave is really now shaped by creators, by friends, by even unknowns that kind of like are becoming the reference for an entire society. So we're going from this sense of like isolated fear to a collective venting that is really shaping how we react and how we approach the next steps. So with social media, consumers, have the power to shape the collective narrative. So one example of that is the conversation around recession indicators, where we see people everywhere on social using this term to comment what's happening in beauty, in fashion, the return of house parties versus going out, even the comeback of Ed Sheeran. Is it a recession indicator? Who knows? It might be. Also a lot of like fun commentary around house guest etiquette and bad manners coming back. Is that a recession indicators? Another manifestation that we also observed in social on the next slide is the sort of like social reinterpretation of brands' decision or announcements. So for example, when DoorDash partners with Klarna to offer US consumers even more convenience with flexible payments, their official point of view is, quote, "We're helping consumers through a difficult financial time." But the way that consumers are actually interpreting this is completely different. And they're rewriting the narrative as, well, actually, you're taking advantage of us. And what have we become as a society if we actually have to pay for takeout burgers with 4 installments? That feels very dystopian. So we see really this sort of like rewriting of the narrative from brands because consumers are taking control. People are taking control of the narrative, and that becomes the reality. That becomes the way that people will now view this news and this information. And it's going to get amplified in really unprecedented ways. So I'll turn it to Jillian, who's going to take us through a little bit more about the shifts and the different changes that we're seeing in consumer behavior.
Yes. So like what Julie was saying, consumers are talking a lot about like what brands are doing on social media in responses to recessions, but does that actually mean anything in the real world? Like, does that actually have impact on what happens when they go to the store? Well, there actually really is. So it's not just what happens on social stays on social. There's real changes that happen in consumer behavior that brands need to pay attention to as well. So, we're seeing everything from, people are starting to actually switch to different brands. They might be going from, their name brand product that they've always used to a private label product, for example. They might be going from, one retailer to more of a discount retailer. They may also be trying to, what we're saying is outsmart the system. So keeping an eye on coupons to try and get the same product, but at a cheaper price. Or they might be going to maybe off-price retailers, think like a TJ Maxx or a Marshalls to get those name brands, but again, at that better price. We've also seen an interesting behavior, especially around this one, which is around stockpiling. So when you think of the tariffs, a lot of people got really nervous when, they were first announced that the prices are going to go up for a lot of different products, especially with fashion. So people were like, I've got to buy all my Christmas presents now, or I've got to buy my sneakers, or, different categories where they thought that the price was going to go up. And they're like, I'm going to stockpile all of that now. And, they're talking about that on social, but they're actually doing it in real life too. And then the final thing we're seeing too is that, people are also deciding to scale back some of their purchases in different categories, or they're even finding these hacks to scale back. So you'll see like an example here, we have someone's actually taking their rubber band, putting it around their moisturizer dispenser, and that actually limits the amount of moisturizer that comes out. So, their kids aren't having as much and they're not going through bottles as quickly, so that they can actually stretch their dollar for a little bit longer. So just to kind of recap this section, so, why does this really matter? Why do marketers need to pay attention to social and use that to build their value strategy? Well, you need to understand the attention, because recessions are talked about in social and they inform those real buying habits of consumers. And so that recession-proof value strategy really needs to be informed by what's happening in social. So now that we've talked a little bit about, why it matters, we'll get through a little bit of the tactics in terms of how to actually build your value strategy on social. We won't go through everything that you can do here. There's definitely a lot more detail on our site with our full report in terms of all the different levers you can take, but we'll go through just a little bit right now. So I'd say the first thing is that brands really need to consider that value takes many forms. I think a lot of us, when we say build your value strategy, we think, okay, that only applies to certain, value brands, discount brands. You might think, Costco, a retailer that sells, $1.50 hot dogs, or Arizona iced tea that has their price at 99 cents. Like, oh, those are the brands that need to pay attention to creating a value strategy. That's not necessarily the case. Value takes many different forms, and in an economic recession, people care about value in all of its forms. So it's not just, price. Value also can be considered quality. You think of Patagonia as a brand that really emphasizes quality. If something doesn't work, you can send it back, they'll repair it. You might think of Stanley, who had a water bottle go on fire in someone's car fire, and it actually came out perfect coming from that. So that's another brand you might think of as quality. Convenience, you might think of Starbucks, or really like any quick service restaurant. They're going to emphasize how easy it is to go to them and how they're going to save consumers time. Maybe they're working a lot longer hours to make up for, not having as much cash during this recession, trying to take on extra shifts. So they need, convenience is important to them. They need to get their, coffee to keep them going, and they need it to be quick. Emotional value is another type of value too. So, it could be like considered badge value, something that people want to feel like proud to talk about as a brand. We've got Emirates as an example here of people love it because it represents like real luxury to them. It's a treat. It's a nice break for them. And then social value is another way to emphasize your brand value too. So we've got Ben & Jerry's as an example here, but really any brand that emphasizes, their ethics and their moral values that are going to align with consumers. And so, brands can play across many different value pillars. It's not that, you think of one brand necessarily pigeonholed into one of those. Typically, they're going to play across many different spaces. But to be able to determine which, pillar is right for you, you really need to, do a careful assessment of the social landscape. And that's something we're going to walk you through, is kind of what you can do in terms of a social audit to see key insights that might inform what your brand decides to do in terms of how to focus on value. All right, and that is where I'll pass it over to Estelle, who's going to kind of walk through our version of a social audit.
Thanks, Jillian. So here we broke all of these slides out in order of the different value cues that Jillian just walked through. So here is essentially how consumers are reframing price on social media right now. So we're seeing that moderation is the new aspiration. So instead of just showing off the luxury brands that you can afford to purchase, people are more proud of showing the ways that they are making do for less, but still showing off a really superior outcome. So even mundane errands like weekly shopping have become content opportunities where people are just showing how they're able to make do for less. So instead of being embarrassed of being cheap, people are seeing being cheap as chic. So we're seeing a lot of content on TikTok around underconsumption core, de-influencing, no spend days. People are just proud to show the ways that they are making do with less money. So how can your brand tap into this notion on social media? So one example that we brought here is saving Easter eggs. So essentially, we're understanding that people have less money to put into products that they may have used to purchase. And here we're rewarding those who are putting in the extra effort by hiding discount codes across our channel, across your channels, creating a sort of hunt for consumers, rewarding those who are really putting in the extra effort by giving them some prizes at the end to make it worth their while. Great. So next up, this is how we reframe quality, how people are reframing quality. So in our minds, spontaneity is out and scrutiny is in. So with so many different just resources out there now on the internet for knowing what you're getting into before you purchase a product, people are putting in a lot more effort into determining what they should be investing in. And investment doesn't only have to be for something that's of a high price tag. It could be something as small as a pack of cookies that you're purchasing at the store. So people are looking online for dupes, things that will do the same job for less. They're going onto Reddit to really understand what's worth the splurge, what's worth skipping. People are also looking for others' opinions on what beauty products are really worth their while by looking into what they're actually using with this whole empties content theme, where essentially people are showing what they're actually using and what in their cabinet is almost empty because they use it so often, essentially showing others that it's worth the money. So one example of how a brand can tap into this notion of being extra aware and extra diligent in making a product decision is to use search to your advantage. So promoting your brand with TikTok or Pinterest search ads that can include your brand next to certain keywords or things that people are looking for, such as chapped lips, for this example here with lip balm, is a great way of putting your brand in the places that they're looking when they are doing this extra research. So in terms of reframing convenience, we labeled this one endless toil fuels dreams of leisure. So it seems like time costs more than ever these days. With the cost of living going up, people having to take on extra jobs to deal with that. Consumers are beginning to fantasize about a life of leisure and looking for any sort of shortcut or small convenience to help them to get there. So we're seeing people extra fascinated in this concept of a trad wife, not understanding how they have so much time on their hands to make all of their food from scratch. We're seeing them turn to like-minded groups for hacks and support, whether that be something traditional like Facebook or some more up-and-coming platforms that allow them to do things like this. We're seeing them romanticizing every small little thing because it's a way of them taking back time for themselves when time is of the essence. So in terms of finding ways of allowing your brand to tap into this on social, just figuring out how to make everything feel really easy and seamless for consumers to help them to understand that we, as a brand, are aware of what they're going through and that the brand is trying to do as much as they can to be respectful and mindful of the time constraints that they may have. So at the end of the day, we're all human, we're not robots. And of course, in theory, it would be great for us to be extra diligent and aware of every single penny that we have and where it's going. But there's something to having a little bit of frivolity in your life. So in reframing emotional value here, essentially what we're saying is that at the end of the day, people are going to make some bad decisions in what they're investing their money into. And what we have to do is figure out how to show them that when they are making these little purchases to make themselves feel a little happy, your brand is the one that they should go to. So we're seeing a lot of little treat culture TikToks that continue to perform well on TikTok. We see girl math, that was such a popular trend last year. Just people are constantly emphasizing the fact that they need to be a little kind to themselves at times. And we have to understand that this is an important value, an important aspect of value as well, as important as all the other ones that we just went through. So how can your brand tap into a little frivolity is worth saving your sanity? Just figuring out how and everything you do to position the brand as a treat that's worth it, in whatever aspect or in whatever stage of life the person is at that moment. And lastly, in reframing social value, here we labeled this one, connecting is more valuable than flexing. So social media is no longer just a place to show off. Instead, it's somewhere that people are excited to see others supporting them and just not gatekeeping important information that others might be interested in. So instead of shying away from taboo subjects such as finances, people are embracing those creators who are speaking really directly to topics like this, or telling other people, hey, I went to the store, I bought a chocolate bar, and I noticed that it is this much smaller than it used to be, but it's still the same price, to spread awareness and help others to not get scammed as they were. And we see just everyone is banding together to drive impact on social media. There's, of course, strength in numbers. So figuring out how we can support each other has been resulting in a lot more, I guess, connectivity and success for certain creators than just pretending that you don't see what other people are going through. So how can a brand tap into this notion? So a brand can be a partner for consumers who are going through a hard time. So figuring out how to utilize your social channels as a space to share your brand and category knowledge and expertise to try to help consumers who are going through difficult times connected to your products and even beyond that. Great. So a big part of what we do at VaynerMedia is figure out how to create cohorts that translate different business needs in social first messaging opportunities to help to contextualize an audience further. So there are so many different types of value. And of course, there are so many different types of value consumers. So instead of just thinking, how can we make content to reach a value consumer, we have to be really understanding of the different cultural nuances that there are out there and the different types of value that people are looking for to create culturally informed cohorts that can really cut through when we are trying to talk to our consumers about value in general. So here we put together a couple of examples of cohorts that we would create to really speak to these different aspects of value. So for example, here we have 18 to 25-year-old daredevils who love the rush of participating in extreme saving challenges. So we have tensions listed here, what they really are looking for in the products that they support and the brands that they support. So their idea of fun is participating in savings challenges, but their success rate isn't high right now with brands increasing prices, which is a bummer for them. So a brand opportunity potentially could be to pique their interest with challenge-style savings videos that incorporate the brand so that they can see the brand as a partner for them. And the next time that they're at the store, they will look out for that brand because they see it is something that is understanding of them and fits into what they need. And since we have time, I'll go through one more. So in the emotional value bucket, 22 to 28-year-old Gen Z corporate newbies treating themselves to mini luxuries without breaking the bank. So these people are excited about having real adult money for the first time, and they want to treat themselves, but they know that they probably shouldn't because of the fiscal environment. They may or may not be still paying off their student loans. They know they should probably be responsible and just drink the office coffee, even if it's really bad. But the brand opportunity here is to showcase your brand as that affordable yet indulgent thing that will really brighten their day. So we see Diet Coke, for example, do a lot of work in this space. They just have positioned their brand as the go-to little sweet treat in the afternoon that so many people on their own have posted about on social, to show that it's such an integral part of their day-to-day that they can't seem to live without it, despite how that has come to impact themselves, from a financial standpoint, potentially from a health one as well. Great. So as was mentioned earlier, your brand likely won't fit into a single value pillar, but it's up to you to decide by doing your own social audits and by determining what leg your brand really has to stand on, what your brand value pillar or pillars should be, and what your cohort should look like, and how you can implement these thoughts into your social media strategy to really effectively speak to consumers during this tough time. Great. So for more information on how to build a value strategy, please visit our website or to download a full report. We really hope this is helpful. Any other lasting thoughts from anyone else? Great. So thank you all so much for joining us.